Welcome back, or just welcome. I'm Lizzie Frizzle, and this is the Recap Corner. Today we're talking about Stars on Mars, Season 1, Episode 3. It's called Fire in the Hole! This episode fell a little flat to me compared to the first two, and that might be because some of the celebronauts seem over life on Mars. Adam says it's because they've all been living inside the hab for a while now. But it's only been 5 days! Souls. Still, Richard's homesick and is convinced he has space madness.
The away from your family and kids, and it's a bit overwhelming. I had not heard of space madness and losing your mind, and I think I'm experiencing it.
And Portia's out of it too. She thinks she hears a dog barking in the sleeping quarters at 3 in the morning.
I know I heard this. I like pets. And I heard, ew, ew, ew. So I screamed, I said, girls, there's a dog in here, there's a dog. So she wakes up like, she's tripping.
No one barked, Portia.
5 minutes later, I hear,
That was not what happened.
To cheer up the celebronauts, Mission Control sends them an emotional support robot dog, who Portia names Marisha after Mars. So, does this mean she actually did hear barking in the middle of the night? The episode never explains if it's just a funny coincidence or not, and I find that infuriating.
It's a robot dog! I hate robots.
This is your emotional support dog. You'll be taking turns to look after it.
I name him Roomba. Marisha, because we're in Mars. I named the dog Marisha. But then I felt like Marisha was a little aggressive with me. Like, she started chasing me.
Like RuPaul pep-talking the All-Stars in the workroom, Marisha successfully revitalizes the cast. Well, most of them. Richard still seems pretty depressed. Also like RuPaul, Marisha ends her visit by pooping out a huge pile of nuts and bolts. I definitely thought Marisha was cute, but her segment was pretty irrelevant to everything else that's happened in the show so far. I was hoping we'd see the celebronauts use Marisha to complete a task, like sending her outside to sniff out food in the Martian landscape or dig up useful items. As it was, Marisha's biggest contribution was needing Tinashe and Lance to walk her, thereby giving Tinashe a moment alone with Lance to campaign to be the next base commander.
Let's go for a walk, baby. Come on. Marisha. Fetch.
Go get the ball.
Get it.
Go get the ball.
Who do you think should be the next base commander? I still think I'd be a good option sometime.
I agree. I'd vote for that.
Lance is receptive too, especially because he definitely doesn't want the job. He's one of those types that likes to go outside. Later, Tinashe also campaigns to Adam, who seems on board until he starts pushing for Ariel to get the job, who doesn't even seem to want it much herself.
I could see this little bit of competitiveness in Tinashe. And I do think that she would be a really good base commander. But she can be a little soft-spoken. So I think somebody who has a strong voice that's gonna cut through the chaos.
Freeze-dried curry.
You need to be the base control in the next mission.
Sure.
You need to step up.
Okay.
I thought this was weird. Last episode, when Tinashe also wanted to be base commander, but the cast elected Tallulah, I thought, well, Tallulah wanted it too. But now that Tinashe is the only celebrinaut to vocally want the job, why is Adam pushing Ariel? In the end, Tinashe does win the election and become the new base commander, but after the vote, some of the cast is weirdly upset for Ariel, who, again, didn't even seem to want it.
Harry, you good in the streets, I know, you know what I mean?
You're gonna get there. It's inevitable.
I wasn't stressed.
We need to respect democracy, guys.
It's fine.
She'll get there eventually.
After the election, Marshawn tries to keep the base commander suite for the third consecutive cycle. The edit presents the situation like if Tinashe can't convince him to move out, then she's a failure as a base commander. And this is what I was talking about in my last video when I said that Tallulah declining the suite would set a bad precedent. Marshawn's refusal to move out is shown as a source of conflict in the episode's trailer, but it's not. He doesn't even refuse. He moves out as soon as Tinashe asks, then the cast acts like she performed a miracle by getting him to do so.
Tallulah didn't take the room, but I think I'll probably just take the room out of, asserting my dominance. Okay, this nice. It's nice.
Take care of my room.
You kicked him out of his room for real?
Yeah.
Tinashe is not around.
She is
Oh my God.
Dang, he just walked by with a cowboy hat on.
You cannot play.
How did you do that?
Marshawn doesn't move into the sleeping quarters, though. He moves onto a couch instead, so I guess he really can't fit in the bunk beds. Portia is a little annoyed by Marshawn's continuous refusal to sleep in the sleeping quarters, but that doesn't stop her from putting a blanket on him when she finds him asleep on the couch later in the episode. Later, the Celebronauts get their latest base duty assignments. In this episode, they're presented like Tinashe is just coming up with them off the top of her head, as opposed to Tallulah and Marshawn, who both read the base duties off a piece of paper. Either way, Adam, Ariel, and Tom are assigned HAB cleanup duty. Natasha and Rhonda harvest crops in the biodome, then make a salad. And Richard and Marshawn lead a group workout, which only the other pro athletes can keep up with.
I do feel a little useless around some of these Olympians
Tickle your fancy.
and professional athletes. They're just like way beyond where the rest of us are.
Wait.
During this segment, we get a few social beats, too. Natasha is in awe of Rhonda and her multifacetedness.
That's beautiful. Rhonda, I love this other side of you. You're like Earth Mother.
Oh, man, I don't try about that, but I have a reputation for being an I have to uphold.
Rhonda is fascinating. I was really scared to come here because people were like, she's a bitch. She's not a bitch at all.
They really didn't help you, did they, buddy?
Tom wonders if Rhonda, Marshawn, and Richard are in an athletic alliance, and Ariel shares a little bit about her bad experiences as a child actor.
Was it your decision to get into acting, or were you kind of like Mark?
I was 4, so it's,
Oh, wow.
you don't really decide anything
Wow.
at 4. So 4. Yeah.
That night, after the cast is asleep, an overhead light inside the biodome bursts and starts a fire. The HAB AI detects that an explosion is imminent, so the cast needs to evacuate the HAB. Fortunately, said explosion is polite enough to wait until everyone's outside to explode. Once again, it was a very sleek-looking stunt. The close-ups of the fire inside the biodome looked especially cool. I don't know if it was a practical effect or not, but it might be more impressive if it wasn't practical, because CGI fires can look pretty bad. After the explosion, pressure inside the HAB stabilizes, and the Celebronauts can re-enter, but the biodome is obliterated. And by obliterated, I mean filled with fake burnt plants. The cast goes back to sleep with the promise that Mission Control will message them a plan the next day. It's the next day, and Shaddy Daddy's sent a message from Mission Control. It's instructions for the Celebronauts' next mission. They'll need to split into 2 groups in order to replenish their crops. The first group, dubbed Ladder Crew, drives a Mars rover to the exterior of the biodome, where they have 25 minutes to repair a hole that's exposing the room to radiation. In this case, repairing the hole means taping a sheet over it. After the patch job, if the biodome passes a pressure test, then the next group, not given a name, has 30 minutes to refertilize 3 planter boxes inside. They'll accomplish that by pouring 90 cups of bio-waste, that's simulated human waste, into the planters. If 30 minutes expire and the planters aren't refertilized, then the soil becomes over-radiated and useless. Tinashe splits up the Celebronauts into the 2 groups and asks Ariel to be her mission specialist. First up, unsurprisingly, it's Phase 1. Lance and Portia are to repair the hole in the biodome wall, while Marshawn and Richard hold their ladders. But before that, the group needs to get to the biodome. They're held up because Marshawn is goofing around inside the rover.
Get in the back.
Let's keep extra communications to a minimum, please. Thank you.
Okay, look, I feel lost at space and it's okay. I don't wanna be sad anyway. I think I lost my mind a long time ago. Ever since then I've been on the road.
The goofing continues during my favorite moment from the episode. Lance needs to cut a piece of tape, so Marshawn, who's standing next to a pair of scissors, gives him a rock.
Where's the bottom of the hole? This will be fun trying to get this off.
All right, and I'll do this part.
Got those scissors?
No, but let me.
What's that?
A rock.
We don't need a rock.
Just cut the tape with the rock.
Marshawn, please communicate.
As Marshawn exacerbates his crewmates, tension builds between him and mission specialist Ariel, too. He thinks she talks too much. Their personality clash has been evident since the series premiere. Now, normally, I like some drama, I like a little shit-talking, but it's kind of a downer when it's between one person and another person with expressed self-esteem issues who's almost a decade younger. Regardless of anyone's personalities, the ladder crew finishes their half of the mission with about 2 minutes left. Despite their success, Richard doesn't consider himself mission critical because all he did was hold a ladder.
My role is to hold the ladder. Doesn't seem Miss Crit.
But just last episode, it was Richard himself who argued that no matter how small your assigned job, if you complete it, then you're mission critical. To start Phase 2, Rhonda and Tom shovel bio waste out of the Habs' septic tank, while Adam and Natasha remove the burnt plants from inside the biodome. When it's time to pour the bio-waste into the empty planters, Natasha can't stop gagging from the smell and basically sits the rest of the mission out, leaving Adam to seemingly pour almost all 90 cups by himself. Really though, it should be 45 cups, because that is for sure a 2-cup measuring cup. After all the bio-waste has been distributed, all 4 members of the Phase 2 crew plant potatoes in the newly fertilized soil. They complete their half of the mission with just 23 seconds left and not a shred of urgency from any of them. It's like they didn't know there was a time limit. For completing the mission, the Celebronauts each earn a survivalist patch. So, we saw no long-term consequences after the cast failed their water retrieval mission last episode. I wonder what would have happened if they failed this one too, and were seemingly left without the ability to grow crops. Would there have been an additional challenge for them to obtain healthy soil, or would Mission Control have just mailed them some? After the mission, we see the Celebronauts take out the trash. Like Marisha's segment, this scene made me wonder if the editors had enough footage to fill out this episode. Also, where is the cast dumping that trash? With the Coober Pedy Desert now littered with Martian garbage, it's time for Base Commander Tinashe and Mission Specialist Ariel to decide who was mission critical. They pick Rhonda, Portia, Lance, Adam, and Tom mission critical for the first time this season. That leaves Natasha, Marshawn, and Richard as the bottom 3. Natasha because she didn't participate in a lot of her phase of the mission, and Marshawn and Richard because their assigned jobs, ladder holding, are viewed as less important than everyone else's. To me, this represents a flaw in how the missions are designed. I'm sure it was really hard to think of 10 plus individual jobs, let alone jobs that are all equally important. But watching people face extraction just because their assigned task wasn't as flashy as someone else's is kind of a disappointment. Natasha's pitch for safety is that she doesn't eat much and that she's got more to contribute to the HAB. Marshawn's pitch is basically that he's God's gift to ladder holding. And yes, he's bullshitting.
All Marshawn and Sherman did was hold a ladder. If I didn't hold that ladder, they wouldn't have been able to do.
Finally, Richard takes a different approach to his pitch for safety. He quits the competition.
Well, I think you guys got a very strong team. I think Natasha and Marshawn are more valuable to this team going forward. And, I feel like I've done my part.
For real? Oh.
He's more or less resigning.
Rhonda pleads with the other celebronauts to not split up the Richard-Marshawn duo, but they ignore her and vote Natasha mission critical first. That leaves Marshawn and Richard in the bottom two together. It was like watching Sugar and Spice have to lip sync for their lives against each other. It's clear that most of the cast wants to extract Marshawn, but since Richard basically quit, they can't. Marshawn is voted mission critical and Richard leaves the airlock. As he lights his flare outside, he says he's grateful for the things he accomplished and the unexpected friendships he made, but he also misses his kids. This was the second time in 3 episodes that my favorite celebrinaut got extracted, but Richard was kind of like a deflating balloon all episode, so it was probably for the best that he left when he did. After the extraction, there's tension among the celebrinauts. A lot of them head to the gym to work it off. Elsewhere, Ariel explains to Portia and Tinashe why they should have extracted Marshawn, and about her larger philosophy that extractions should be merit-based, not likability-based. When Portia basically blows her off, Ariel and Tinashe start to get worried that there might be alliances they're not a part of. So I'm really looking forward to next episode because I'm hoping that some of this tension materializes into some memorable drama. But for now, I'll say that my brightest star of this episode was Tinashe. She was finally elected base commander, she finally got Marshawn to move out of the base commander's suite, and she led the cast to their second successful mission. Of course, now that I'm openly saying I want her to win, she'll probably be the next extracted. In the trailer for the next episode, we see an intense-looking mission during which the cast nearly runs out of oxygen. We also see Marshawn destroy like an alien spider web inside a cave with a freaking flamethrower after the cave explodes.
Say hello to my little friend.
It looks really exciting, and I thought it was the best trailer of the season so far until it spoiled both the new base commander and the next mission specialist. Thanks for watching. Come back next Sunday for another Stars on Mars recap. And in the meantime, if you're so inclined, please like and subscribe. Thanks again. See you next Sunday. Bye.